Hello, good afternoon. I'm Chetan from micebook. Welcome to this session focusing on incentives and conferences. We're at the OnLive studio at the Radisson Heathrow, actually. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to introduce Andrew, the MD of OnLive. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Tell us, Andrew, what do we have here? What are you offering at this studio?
So this is our pop-up studio here at the Radisson Red Heathrow. It's a full function conference facility that we've taken over until the end of March. The facility gives us a lot of flexibility, whether it's breakout rooms, whether it's studio space for other clients, whether it's the main studio that we're in today, and obviously next door supported by the full production team and full production capability.
So is this permanently here? You've got the studios here like for a long period of time?
Yeah, so at the moment it's planned until the end of March, with a view that we'll probably then look to extend that beyond March. We also then have a separate facility at Castle Donington. So again, if we get too busy here, we've always got the backup of being able to use the Castle Donington studio.
So you've got all the production, you've got the different stages. In terms of like platforms and how people use it in terms of if it's virtual and hybrid, do you stick with a certain platform or is it agnostic? How does it work?
So it's agnostic, so we can use any of the main platforms that exist today, or we can use a company's internal platform. They might want that extra level of security, and we can work within any of those platforms that are available today.
And what kind of inquiries are you seeing? Is it all sorts of events and all sectors? Give us a flavour of what kind of things have been booked here.
It's a real mixture, from charities to banks, to automotive brands, to consumer electronic brands, to products that are looking to maybe launch products early next year and use this facility to be able to do that product announcement. It's for a number of different inquiries in a number of different sectors.
Yeah, and it lends itself to hybrid because of the space. But I also saw, obviously, we had DJ Spoonie. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the tunes at the start of this session, got you into the groove. Tell us about DJ Spoonie and what's the kind of collaboration with you guys here?
So we did an event for Jonathan earlier in the year, and it was around British Black excellence and celebration of Jonathan's 50th birthday. Had a host of celebrities. We managed the event end-to-end, from brief 2 weeks before the event went live to full execution, to obviously streaming through all of Jonathan's social platforms. And it was really at the end of that activity that we then realised that there was something much bigger to go after. So that was the creation of OnLive, and Jonathan is a partner and also plays the dual role of a brand ambassador. So really leading the charge on the entertainment part of the business and being able to access all of his contacts and all of his industry knowledge in that space.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for hosting us today and this afternoon. Really appreciate it. Anyone who wants to get more details about OnLive and their offering, both within the physical studio or the virtual OnLive world, please do get in touch with OnLive. Their logo and link is on our Hop-In platform, and we'll be circulating it afterwards. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks for having
it.
me.
Oh, welcome. Wow, what a day to have an event. micebook seems to have events when there's big announcements. Last time we had Boris Johnson telling us we were all going to go back into lockdown, but today has been a much better news day, and we're definitely going to be covering that as we go on. So today is about incentive and luxury in terms of the afternoon's content. November was a whole month of virtual and hybrid and focusing on the whole sector. On micebook.com, you could search for virtual agencies, you could search for platforms, advanced search, all of these, lots of content. And this is Hybrid Today, which we love doing because it really is a step to live, and it builds that confidence very slowly in a stepped fashion. So that's great, but I think the incentive industry totally got smashed, didn't they? I mean, it's really hard. I feel for the incentive partners, the hoteliers, the CVBs, the DMCs across the world, where the pivot to virtual hasn't been as easy. So we've got to get this sector back, and given the vaccine news, it's going to come back we think, faster than ever. So that's just good news, but we've got to work hard to get that industry back, which is the whole focus for this afternoon. Very quickly, a few other quick things I just want to tell you about before we get into it. In 2 weeks' time, we've got the micebook and SiteGB Christmas party, which I'm very excited about. If anyone's been to the SiteGB Christmas party in previous years, you know this is the party to go to. So we're delighted to be working with them, collaborating. It's totally free for everyone to join. And a thank you to the community. That has been, what a year. It's been such a tough year for so many people. And we want to say goodbye to this year and look forward to 2021. So in 2 weeks' time, all details out on mustbeonit.com on the event tab. And a very quick kind of nod to 2021. January the 13th, we've got the postponed event from the Mayfair Townhouse that was meant to happen. It's a live event, 2 events for one in the afternoon, one in the early evening. So again, look on the event page, but that's going to be our first live event of 2021, which I'm really looking forward to, getting back to live, getting to see people in the community. Hopefully you will join. And finally, a plea from me, because we lost our Instagram account. I don't know how, don't ask me, and we're trying to get it back, but we've lost all of our followers, so we're starting again in case it doesn't come back. So I urge you now, can you pick up your phone and can you search on Instagram, micebook Hub, and follow us again, where we will, of course, we'll be sharing lots of content. So that's a quick plea from me. And finally, this event, if you've attended it before, it's on Hopin. We love doing them. We've been doing them from other clients. So if you'd like us to do them for you, please do let us know. We'd love to work with you and your audiences to get a virtual or hybrid event going. So in terms of Hopin, the platform, if you've been on it before, you know when you arrived, you're on reception on the left-hand menu. Currently, you're on stage watching the content, which is where the first case study will be here. And then at 4:15, we've got the language of luxury, also on stage. And at 5 p.m., we've got the site index, some early results of their survey, which is really exciting. It's the first place where they're sharing this detail, again, live on stage. You've also got a networking session after this first session on stage. So you hit the networking tab on the left-hand menu. That's for everyone. So buyers are matched for a 5-minute video call to suppliers. It's really fun, just some networking for half an hour. So please do get involved. Click the networking tab when you're ready and it will send you instructions. You just click ready and you're there to go. Sometimes it can take a few minutes to match you with someone, but just be patient with that. On the right-hand side, you've also got your chat for the event. You've also got polls. Please do fill in the polls. It'll be really interesting to get some insight into the incentive market and what's actually happening. And you've got, for informal chat, if you are there's in sessions, we've got 2 coffee shops, which you can pop in and have a chat with someone, or you can invite people to a personal video chat, which is on the right-hand menu. You can see people, you can message them and invite them for a personal video chat. Right, that's all my messages done. Thank you for listening. Let's get straight into the first session. And I'm really delighted to announce that we've got Strata Create with us. Delighted to have you. Thank you so much for driving down and joining us. And we've also got Louise. Hello, F by Magic.
Hello.
Hey, Lou.
Lovely to see you, Louise.
Hi.
So we have Louise on screen. So I'm going to start with you guys here live in the audience. Can you introduce yourselves? I'll start with you, Lucy. Tell us your name, your role, and your role within the case study we're going to talk about. And same to you, Patrick, afterwards.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Lucy Kendall from Strata, and I'm one of the event logistics managers. And this incentive I sort of project-led and came up with the concept and managed it throughout.
Okay, Patrick?
I'm Patrick Ockenden, I'm the account director at Strata, obviously taking the overview from a client perspective, making sure that the event and the incentive runs smoothly, on budget, on time, and for the expectations for our clients.
Brilliant. And Louise, tell us.
I'm Louise Wetherell and I work in the digital events team, and I basically make sure everything works back end properly.
How are we doing so far in terms of your viewpoint? Is it all working?
Yeah, all good.
Good. I love this. This is great, isn't it? This is truly hybrid. It's fantastic. Okay, so let's get into this case study, which is really interesting. Tell us, Louise, Lucy, just you were managing the client. So what was planned originally, and did that then transform to a hybrid event? Give us the background of this.
Yeah, so the client already had an incentive booked, UK based, for 3 nights in the Lake District in June. So then when COVID struck in March, we discussed it and initially just put it back to September. And then around summertime, when we were talking again, and we realised that we weren't going to be able to get 50 people together without, masks and screens and things on an incentive basis for a while. And that's when we started talking about the possibilities of making it into a virtual event.
So from moving from the live, tell us that journey of considerations. How were you going to try and match what was done? What was the thought process of research, and how did you get the client to sort of buy into what you were proposing?
Yeah, so the incentive had already been launched and everybody knew where they were supposed to be going. So the thought was that we would still try and keep a theme, a loose theme around that, and that we would try and incentivise them to stay engaged for the whole weekend as well, rather than just doing, a cocktail masterclass or something in the evening. That we would try and engage them by using a platform as well to keep them keep their interest.
And so the concept was pitched to the client, and did you have it all worked out in terms of, so sometimes you when you've got a live event, you say, right, this is the hotel, this is the itinerary. Did you have it all pitched out, and every single activity, was it
not initially? When we first started talking, it was very much a conversation with the client and us all working together. And then when we sort of said to them, how about doing something virtual, and this is what we could do, we then went off and came up with lots of different ideas, almost like a shopping list. And I think initially the client thought it would just be evenings, and then we talked about how we could bring it into a whole weekend event, and keep them engaged during the daytime and bring in optional activities. And we almost went to them with a shopping list of activities and things that would appeal to different audiences and different people. And then they chose, we worked together to put the itinerary together.
So Louise, did you get a phone call from Lucy going, we've got to put this on, we need technology support? How did the technology conversation come about?
Well, we use quite a few different sort of systems. So we just spoke to Lucy to see which one, sort of what she wanted and what was involved, and then we just decided on which solution would be the best one, and went from there, really.
But was it quite a learning curve to kind of take? I mean, have you done a lot of this hybrid or virtual broadcast before, and you just were able to adapt, or did you have to kind of look at it differently because it was an incentive?
Well, we managed to adapt the system that we use, because we normally use that for live events, and it would be a user app that they would use while they were at the event. So we kind of utilised that system because they can use that on a desktop or a mobile. So we kind of already knew the system, and it was just sort of changing it to work for online only.
Okay. And you mentioned that, and originally you thought maybe it was just evenings, and then did you sort of then convince the client that this could be the whole weekend and that will make it special? Was that?
Yeah, we talked around the fact that, if they are at home, they're going to have family there and they're going to have other commitments, and maybe we could do some optional activities during the day that would include the family as well, and make them feel, like they didn't have to shove the kids in a cupboard or, ship them off to the grandparents for the weekend. And yeah, it would also help to engage them throughout the whole weekend as well.
I think that's one of the great things about the incentive, is it wasn't just the two partners, it was also their kids and family members that could become part of it as well.
Dogs and cats.
And dogs and cats and stuff, so everyone could be part of that element, and it had that flexibility.
So did you have that in mind? Because like you say, if you've got an incentive for couples, say, you take them away and you've just got them, but did you have to factor in the home life, the whole shebang?
It was one of those things. I mean, we're all experienced at working from home, and you've got the kids there that need their food. You need to get the food on the table ready for them. So you've got all of these things you've got to factor in. So we made sure that the incentive was fit for purpose, and certainly allowed everyone to be part of that and had that flexibility.
Okay, well, we'll come on to the nuts and bolts of the event, but just so Patrick, the budget side, there's been a lot of topics of discussion around budgets and how virtual is cheaper, and and so on, and actually the thinking has changed, because yes, you can do certain things cheaper, but to achieve what you want, you should be spending properly, almost the same budgets, if to get the right content, the right production. How did that factor in this kind of conversation?
I think the great thing about our client was that they were happy to use all of their budget that they had set aside for a live event, which was great because that meant that we could get those A-lister celebrities that had that appeal and exclusivity, which is what incentives should really about, and not create a memorable experience for our guests. So from a budget perspective, also when you switch to virtual, you've still got the likes of Louise's time, you've got the platform that needs to be factored in. So there's a whole load of new skill set that you still need to acquire to deliver that project.
So that was great with this particular client, but for other clients, are you finding that they are expecting things to be much cheaper, or are they coming around to the fact that they should be investing similar amounts?
There's a bit of an educational piece as well, because not many clients are used to virtual and what that means and what skill set you need. So there's an educational side from us as an agency with our partners, which we certainly do. But I think now they're grasping what virtual is about, and also I think what opportunities are out there as well. It's not just a Zoom call, it's not just a Teams call. There's a lot more added value that you can offer them.
Yeah, I guess it's evolved from March to June to August. Even there's been so many iterations of what virtual and hybrid is.
Yeah.
And I think our suppliers in the event industry have done a great job in terms of turning their proposition into a virtual one to offer to our clients. So hats off to everyone thinking outside the box and giving us the opportunity to sell some great experiences.
So tell us about the actual event. To give us the top line of what was it that the guests enjoyed for the weekend?
So we had, like I said, we built a platform initially that gave them everything they needed to know, like we would normally use for an on-site event, with an itinerary and everything, and guest list and everything appeared on site on there. And then there were links to each of the live sessions. And we started off on the Friday night with an escape room, and then they went offline for dinner, and the dinner was from a restaurant in the Lake District that had been pre-prepared in a meal, so the box was delivered to them with a three-course meal for 2 people already prepared. They just had to heat it and eat it. And then they joined us back online after dinner for a cocktail masterclass. And again, the hamper had been delivered on the Friday. We delivered this big box to every guest with everything they'd need for the whole weekend, plus more, plus some luxury items and some gifts as well. And then Saturday daytime, we had optional activities, 5 different activities that they could join in, from yoga, Joe Wicks workout, some other things as well, and then they all joined back on in the evening again when we did a whole cooking masterclass, again linked to a cookery school in the Lake District, where a box delivered with all the ingredients already weighed out, and they cooked a 3-course meal together, and then had after dinner entertainment from Dara O'Brien.
Wow, amazing! That sounds. Yeah. Could I have got an invite? So I know. So in terms of the technology, Louise, how was that on the actual weekend? How did you find managing the technology side with all of the different suppliers and things going on? How did you scale up to do all of that?
Well, the suppliers and things was Lucy was dealing with we're contacting them but the platform and everything, it was something we'd already used before, so I kind of knew what we were doing, but making sure that everyone had logged in and knew how to use the platform and everything like that was, something that was new to us, to make sure that everyone knew where to go for each activity and which link to join for each session and things like that. It was definitely a bit of a learning curve, but we delivered it. We got there.
Yeah. And being relatively a small group, we actually did personal tech check calls to every guest in the week leading up to it, because we didn't want to log on that Friday for the host's main welcome speech and have people not knowing where the link is or having their sound not working and things like that. So we actually called every guest in the week leading up to it and did a test Zoom call with them and a tech check.
So show them how to
make sure they knew, where to find the live sessions on the platform, and that they, had used Zoom before, had Zoom downloaded onto their laptop and everything like that.
And then in terms of all of the special guests that you had, how was that working with them virtually?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's different. Normally on a live event, you have all your suppliers on site with you, so they're ready, they're there, 2 hours before or everything like that. But on this, apart from, we'd done a briefing call with them a week in advance to test, again, do a tech check and check the lighting and everything. But then on the day, you're just relying on them clicking on a link 15 minutes before your guests do. So it's quite nerve-wracking, just watching that Zoom, waiting for your speaker or somebody to join. and then you can breathe again and know that they're there.
Any hairy moments that you could share?
We didn't lose anyone. We didn't have anybody not turn up.
Okay. Okay. And so you mentioned earlier on about it being a whole weekend.
Yes.
So how did that flow with the kids on the actual event? Was it designed for people to hop in and out of? There's a plug for hop in. Was it designed that way so it worked for the whole weekend? How did you keep them engaged?
So in addition to the live sessions through the platform, you can run gamification and competition elements. So we set some picture challenges, a photo scavenger hunt so if they went out on a walk in the morning with the kids, they could take photos of, there were 5 different, like create an optical illusion or create a stack of, house of cards, or show us what the, incentive means to you in a photo. And a quiz that we designed on there, and then they got other points for completing certain things on their profile, so they're adding a profile picture or completing questions. So they were actually, and there was a leaderboard, so they were actually competing against each other as well, because they were quite a competitive bunch, this lot, that would normally do competition in their live events. It meant that they got engaged, and a lot of them in the morning were running around busy taking all their photos, and there's a live news feed as well, so that they can
within the
post
platform.
Within the platform.
Okay.
So as they go offline to cook their dinner, they were posting pictures on there of their plated up dinner that they'd done and stuff. So
what
it was really nice.
What do you think drove it? Do you think it's the competitive element that drove that interaction, getting them to do all these challenges?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the client decided to give an overall prize as well at the end. So for the person with the most points, they actually got a 2-night stay, a voucher in the Lake District.
Okay.
So they were actually competing for something at the end of it as well, which I think encouraged them all to complete the challenges.
And then, so was that you wanted them to be part of a weekend incentive, even if they weren't online? Was that the competition part and all these other activities? Is that how you did that?
Yeah. So feeling that they were part of it, even when they weren't online, and making the daytime things optional meant that if they did have children and commitments, taking them to classes or anything like that, to activities, then they didn't have to join.
Yeah.
And the client also wanted to make the evenings very casual.
Okay.
And to the point where, the evening started at 6 o'clock, but if you needed to be putting children to bed or dinners or anything, then there was, it was very relaxed if one partner wasn't online until a bit later.
Yeah. Louise, I remember when we talked earlier about your kind of, you managed all the technical side, and I asked about upskilling, and you mentioned that you kind of took time when you were on furlough. Was that right? Or how did you, what was the training you did?
Yes, so the system that we use actually has access to custom HTML and CSS, which before we would always rely on the systems development team to implement for us to make the platforms branded to specific clients or personalization. So during furlough, I decided to take some courses myself in custom CSS and HTML. Which for now for the company is really good, because we can now make brand changes instantly without having to wait for the development team to do it for us. So if a client wants something changed, a color or text or anything like that, I can do it instantly now. Which is one really good thing about the platform, is that we have access to that to do it ourselves. It's a very customizable platform which works really well for us. That's
brilliant. I mean, that's such a good kind of so many people have lost their jobs or had to retrain, or and the fact that you did that yourself off your own back to retrain. I mean, I think that's such a good news story, isn't it? And great for the team.
Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant.
Perfect. Yeah, especially as we see virtual is going to be here for the next probably 6, maybe 9 months. So it's great skill set to have internally now. So
yeah. Okay, so then moving on to feedback and engagement. How do you give us your top lines of how do you think it went for the guests, for the client? What kind of went really well? What would you do differently?
Yeah, so the client in general was really pleased with everything, and the feedback showed that, reflected that as well. It was really a lot of people. Couple of the questions that we asked were, what were your first thoughts when you heard the incentive was changing to a virtual incentive? And most people said, obviously a little bit of disappointment, because they were supposed to be going to the Lake District for 3 nights, but they were intrigued and they didn't see how it could work. And that after that, the next question was, how was the event for you? And that they were all, very, very impressed with how it turned out, and didn't imagine that it could be so good.
And looking at the case study, which we did a newsletter on it, it looked brilliant. And take out the whole COVID situation. my question is it a good incentive full stop, or even the fact that it had to be, would you say it was a good incentive full stop?
I think definitely if you did it from the get-go and there was never a physical event planned, then yes, it was a good incentive full stop. The people that we had, the speakers and the presenters that we had on the event, they couldn't have had a live event, and it's not like watching somebody on YouTube or on TV. They actually got to talk to them. Every session had a Q&A at the end, so every session the guests could actually ask Joe Wicks or Dara O'Brien questions and interact with them, or the chef at the cooking school and all of that sort of stuff. So I think yes, it was a very good incentive, and they actually got a very tangible gift out of it with the box that got delivered at the end, because not everything in there was used on the event. There was a lot of stuff for them for afterwards as well, so they were left with a nice tangible gift.
And what would you do differently? I mean, from the first one, because I know you've done a second one, but from the first one, what were the kind of key learnings?
Yes, we literally just did the second one 2 weeks ago, and there were a few key learnings that we took from feedback, as well as from how Lou and I felt that it went on the night. Things like people missed the networking sessions, so we added in some pre-dinner. We added in some champagne into their boxes that we delivered, and just did some pre-dinner networking groups
Is it
with a
between
glass
each
of
other?
champagne, with the guests.
Okay.
So before their main speaker came on, we'd split them into some breakout rooms, and they could just have some champagne and a chat in their room, so a bit more chance to network. We also had feedback from the first time that the clients' laptops, some of them weren't that great, so the sound quality wasn't that good. So with the second one, again, we sent out USB speakerphones to everybody in advance. So that improved, that knocked all of that on the head the second time. We didn't have any issues with audio.
That's their audio, they could hear better?
Yes, so they couldn't, the speaker quality of their laptops, their work laptops weren't that great.
Got you.
So we sent out an external speaker, which helped, and microphones, so everybody could be heard. And the other one was that it was a little bit stressful, I think, the cooking on the first one.
The cooking?
Yeah, so a 3-course meal from scratch on Zoom caused a few marital issues, I think. Messy kitchens. So yeah, in front of all your colleagues live on Zoom trying to cook that. So we scaled that back second time and just made it so that the meals were a lot more easier and more enjoyable and more prepared. So again, they just had to heat and assemble.
Okay. Out of interest, one of the things that incentive studies always do is that, and you mentioned networking, some of the biggest parts, that you say you go away on a beautiful trip to some remote place in the world, one of the biggest benefits of incentive is networking with your peers, and also being with senior management has always come up as really key ROIs and why people love incentives. You mentioned networking, is that part of it as well, or was that never part of it in terms of?
Yeah, I think that those face-to-face incentives are great for networking, because you're chatting in the bar, you're chatting over dinner. So to try and recreate that in a virtual experience was our first kind of bit of a worry, wasn't it? But I think we understand this audience, we know what makes them tick, so we managed to create a program that encouraged them to network, and they did. That's why they would join some of the Zoom calls half an hour before they were supposed to, because they wanted to chat.
Okay.
And a lot of the sessions, we broke them down into smaller groups for the actual session, and we did it like we pre-planned those groups. So like table plans, so where you would have 3 different dinners, and we would have moved everybody around for the 3 different evenings on the live event.
Yes.
We made sure for the 3 sessions that they were in breakout rooms, no one was with the same person twice, and we mixed them all around.
Yeah.
So we planned that to make sure that they all got to talk to everybody. And again, the host was in different groups every time to make sure he spoke to all the key people he needed to be with.
Yeah, that's good. We're thinking of something, so with the Christmas party we're doing with Site in 2 weeks' time, we're going to use the booths actually to have different tables like you would in a normal Christmas dinner, which I think will give you those small networking groups, because sometimes when you're on a call with too many people, you don't get to talk, really.
Yeah.
Lou, just what, in terms of learnings from your side on the first or the second one, anything else you do differently, or things that you learned on any side of it, or technical side?
I think it was the interaction on the first one. We managed to improve that quite a lot on the second one with sort of promoting the news feeds on the platform, and we added a lot more alerts. You can send sort of push notifications and alerts via the system, so we added a lot more of them in the second one to encourage them to add more images to the newsfeed and answer, all the competitions, the gamification. And that definitely was a step up in the second one. There was a lot more interaction, a lot more people posting photos of their dinner or their hampers. And so, yeah, that was definitely a bit of an improvement on the second one for the networking.
Well, and so the second one was, so the first one was Lake District.
Yeah.
Where was the second?
The second one was supposed to be Glen Eagles.
Okay.
But it's obviously quite a niche theme to try and do all the activities around. So we made it Scotland in general.
Okay.
Yeah, and luckily because Glen Eagles actually closed the Friday before our event was supposed to be because of COVID. So had it have been, and the weather was terrible that weekend up there.
So I guess the $1 million question, especially for so many people listening, and we all want to get back to live. Patrick, tell us what clients are saying about virtual in the short run, in terms of, are there incentives in the short run? Are they going to stay with virtual? What are they looking at in terms of live?
This particular client has set out that the next two incentives for next year will be virtual. So we'll have one in Q2 and one in Q3. But that Q3 one, based on the news that we've had today, is very promising. That Q3 one, we could adapt back from virtual into a live one. So I think we're on standby, ready to be able to shift from virtual to live. But I think from domestic incentives, hopefully Q3, Q4 next year. Overseas, there's so many factors. I mean, we obviously deal globally. We obviously have delegates from global destinations. So there's so many factors that we need to consider. But I'd like to think from an overseas perspective, maybe Q1 in 2022, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, and our clients sort of, do they want to go, there's a school of thought that clients have got so used to this virtual and that all of their teams have and so on. Is there a danger that people just go, well, we'll just do everything virtually, or do you think incentives, no, you just cannot replicate?
They're very hard to replicate, and
Yeah.
we've obviously done a great job in doing that, but you still can't beat that face-to-face interaction like we're having today. I mean, looking in the whites of the eyes,
Yeah.
they're all about creating those experiences in person, going to these fantastic destinations and experiences,
Yeah.
and creating those memories. So, no, I think people, hopefully those budgets will come back and they'll come back bigger and better, but we shall see. So.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a desire to meet in person again. And these, virtual incentives give a great respite to the current climate. But I think the moment that you can get everybody together again, it would be definitely appreciated.
And do you see that being domestic first, then start like 2022, looking at, like you were saying, January?
Yeah. I think domestic.
I think so.
This client that we work with is predominantly domestic incentives. So as soon as the UK opens up, great, we can look to do face-to-face live experiences. But I think, January next year, 2022, for that domestic travel.
Do you see major challenges with availability, given again, lots of talk about pent-up demand, everyone wants to go live. We've only, say this Q1, Q2 is vaccine and lots of positivity and confidence coming back. With live bookings Q3, Q4, do you see like a major challenge with availability and getting these events placed?
Yeah, definitely. And also I think a cost perspective as well. So like if you are looking to go on an airline, we know the airline prices have rocketed up. So that's something that we need to factor in, I think, when we're looking overseas. But yeah, from a supplier's perspective, as soon as we can get to face-to-face, I think hopefully these venues, phones will be ringing and people wanting to be booking. So yeah, it's going to be the first one to get that inquiry in and get that.
I think we'll find lead
space on
times
hold.
will be very short, and therefore demand very high.
And what about for the teams? I mean, as an agency, you've got your teams now delivering virtual, Lou and Lucy and many others delivering virtually, and then the live will also come. How do you foresee? I mean, I see that as another bottleneck challenge coming. Do you guys see the same? Will you go the freelance model to try and cope? Any thoughts, discussions?
I mean, we do use freelancers as and when we need to. But I think the great thing is we have got that skill set of doing live event and experiences as well as virtual, and that's just a problem that, as an agency, it's a nice problem to have. So, yeah, we should see what happens. Really.
Yeah, we shall see what happens. Lucy, you mentioned, in terms of your confidence, in terms of having now delivered 2 virtual events, or many, but 2 of these incentives, how are you finding the whole thing? Are you enjoying it? Do you like it? Is there elements you kind
of... there's a certain element of enjoyment there. It's very different, and there's, as I said, with the whole suppliers jumping online at the last minute, it can be nerve-wracking. You've got a little bit less control over it, but it's exciting. I've enjoyed learning a new way of running events, and I think everybody's become more confident with speaking on video conferencing during lockdown and things, and I think hopefully that will continue to keep avenues open with DMCs overseas and things like that. I think we discussed before that, if I've got a brief for an incentive overseas nowadays, I'd be tempted to just Zoom or video call with a DMC and chat through it rather than sending an email and waiting for a response that way. So I think it might open up better communication for that sort of channels.
That's interesting. So yeah, because I mean the normal process pre-COVID was you get a brief, you write it up, send it to them, they send it back, or it's quite,
you get a proposal back, and
you're quite removed, aren't you?
Yeah.
And all you're trying to do is get the right solution for the client. So you see that being a part of the briefing process.
I think a lot of DMCs and suppliers have been great at doing virtual showcases and things in this time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great way of us being able to chat through briefs in the future and maybe get the right solution quicker, rather than what you can read into a brief.
Yeah.
Actually talking it through, and I know we had the phone before, but it's I think a video conferencing way of doing that would be brilliant.
And Louise, the same. Are you enjoying this side of the events business? Are you dying to get back to live? Are you quite how are you feeling?
No, I do enjoy the technical side of it, but you can't beat being on site on a live event, can you? It's just the feeling of being on site with your team and working together to achieve a goal is just great. I mean, me and Lucy, obviously, we chat a lot on Teams while we're working on these live events, but it's just a little bit different, both stuck in I'm in my little office up in Northampton, and it's definitely not the same feeling, but I still do enjoy it.
And so I'm going to come to final words because we're coming up to time. But so it's just you heard the vaccine news this morning. What fantastic news that we're going to be rolling out. The vaccines have been approved. How did you feel when you heard that news?
Oh, it's just great news, isn't it? Hopefully, it means life can get back to some form of normality. It's just going to be amazing. Hopefully, we can get it all done and dusted. Start going back to doing what we love.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for dialing in today.
No problem.
Lucy, just the same to you. So how did you, both privately and also professionally, how did you feel when you heard the news about the vaccine?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's great news for our industry, and hopefully it will give clients the confidence to start thinking about booking things for next year, whether it's the back end of next year and then into early 2022. But yeah, I just think it's the confidence boost that we need.
Yeah. And final words, Patrick.
Yeah, it's a confidence thing, isn't it, really? From a personal perspective, it's being able to go out and enjoy time with family and friends and feel safe once we get vaccinated. From a business perspective, yeah, it's being able to create these awesome experiences for our clients, memorable experiences, and making sure it's safe for them. So yeah, fingers crossed that we can roll it out as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank all of you from dialing in and to coming down to Heathrow to the OnLive studio. So really appreciate it. It does make a difference, right? Just being together.
Yeah, it does, definitely.
It's brilliant. So thank you.
No, thank you.
For coming down and also just sharing that great case study. Well done on that project and delivering the second one as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it really for the first session. So we now are going to go to the networking bit. In about a minute or so, if you click the networking tab on the left-hand menu, you'll be matched up with someone who's a buyer will be matched with a supplier for a quick 5-minute call. It's really fun, just until 4:15, and then you're back on stage for the language of luxury, which should be a really interesting discussion. I hope you enjoyed that first case study. As you can see, it was delivered fantastically virtually, but we're all really keen to be back to live, getting out to destinations, hotels, working with DMCs on activities. There is a real desire, and Strata are going to work hard to get their clients back to you. Thank you for listening.